We're lucky to have back with us on the show Dr. Kelly Victory. She's been on the show many times, but I saw a post she put out recently on possible drug shortages, especially with what's going on in the Persian Gulf with the supply chains being cut off. Dr. Victory, what was your theory behind that?
Well,
Welcome,
thanks
buddy.
as always. Thanks as always for having me, Todd. My theory is this: there has been a long, standing over reliance on China and to a lesser extent India for our pharmaceuticals here in the United States. More than 90% of all prescription drugs or their active ingredients are sourced from China. And this is a huge national security threat. We have simply got to refurbish our moribund manufacturing capabilities in the US for drugs. In the meantime, however, because that's going to take quite some time, even with great effort, we really are at risk for supply chain disruptions. And it takes something as, quote, small as what's going on in the Middle East and, the delay in shipping and those sorts of things that could potentially cause a massive problem in drug supply. It's one of the reasons that we really at the Wellness Company have focused on manufacturing these medications in the US because, as I said, this is a huge national security threat.
So we saw this during COVID. Have we not learned our lesson? Have we made any progress?
We really haven't made a lot of progress. There simply hasn't been a lot of focus on it. I brought this to the attention of administrations over the past 20 years, as I said, because of the national security issue. Think about this. We are outsourcing medications to our greatest geopolitical foe. What could possibly go wrong? I mean, it's one thing to buy a t-shirt or a bauble for your garden from China. When you're talking about your blood pressure medication, your child's asthma medication, diabetes medications, this is potentially a disaster.
Well, we're going to stay on that story. I want to switch real quick because you guys released a study recently talking about ivermectin and mebendazole. I can never say that together and their treatment and effect on cancer. Tell us about that.
Absolutely. It's really exciting stuff. We have been looking at, we meaning scientists, have been looking at over a period of decades, the application of repurposed drugs for cancer, in large part because chemotherapy is such a toxic brew for many people, and it doesn't have that great a track record in terms of killing and keeping cancers from returning. Interestingly, this group of anti-parasitic drugs, and that's what both ivermectin and mebendazole are. They were initially developed to treat parasites, worms, and other sorts of things like that. But interestingly, parasites share in common with cancer a similar way of replicating, growing, and reproducing. And it turns out that these same anti-parasitic drugs have a profound effect on cancer, and not just a single cancer, many different types of cancers. And they do this without killing off good cells the way that chemotherapy does. So rather than decimating your immune system, leaving you potentially with heart damage and neuropathy and all of the other things that chemotherapy is fraught with, this class of drugs, if in fact it is as powerful and effective as we think it might be, could be a total game changer for people with cancer. The study that we did was an observational study, and therefore has significant limitations because of the study design. But we looked at just under 200 patients, 197 patients, who were taking a combination of ivermectin and mebendazole, and over a period of months. And lo and behold, 84% of them, Todd, reported a positive outcome. 48% had either complete remission of their cancer, no evidence of cancer, or regression of their cancer. Another 36% had their cancer not progressed, stayed the same, and only 15% had any progression of their cancer at all. Now, obviously, because of the study design and the fact that some people may have been doing chemo or radiation or other therapies, we can't say definitively that this proves that this medication combination cures cancer. But at a minimum, it is overwhelmingly compelling data that should motivate a lot of money to get into a large, well-controlled study so that we can really understand this.
I read somewhere that there were studies previously that showed this, but they were kind of covered up. Do you know anything about that? I don't want to put you on the spot.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, I know a lot about it, and you are exactly right. This is not new.
Uh-huh.
There have been decades worth of research on this. In the veterinary world, ivermectin has commonly been used to treat cancer, including breast cancer in dogs. I had my own Labrador Retriever 12 years ago developed breast
Wow.
cancer, and the drug they put her on was ivermectin. There are hundreds and hundreds of studies out there over a period, as I said, going back decades, that show very promising results. But this scientific facts, these facts have been suppressed largely, I believe, because big pharma doesn't stand to make any money from these things, where they make tremendous amounts from chemotherapy and from immune approaches to cancer. So again, if we were able to prove definitively that these very safe, very inexpensive, well-tolerated drugs could be repurposed in the treatment of cancer, it would be a complete game changer.
Wow. Wow. We're going to stay on top of that. It's fascinating. And a lot of people still don't know about this, right? I
Oh,
mean,
I think most people don't. And in fact, really, we get significant pushback from people associated, as you might expect, with big pharma. But I am really surprised and perplexed at the vitriol that we get online when we posted our study, or when we talk about how exciting it is that ivermectin could actually cure cancer, or that the combination of these drugs could cure cancer. The pushback you get from lay people who just don't want to hear it. The very mention of the word ivermectin, and I think it got tarred with a heavy brush because of COVID, the idea that it's horse paste, when the reality is ivermectin has been FDA approved for use in humans for decades. It goes back to the early 1980s. It is incredibly safe. It's taken by hundreds of millions of people around the globe every year. It's over the counter in almost every country other than the US and Canada. It really has a safety profile far, far better than something like Tylenol. And you have to take a tremendous amount of it to get toxic. So I would think that people would be absolutely clamoring for more data, very, very interested in this. But the pushback is somewhat surprising. And I really do believe it's because of how successful the propaganda campaigns are against these sorts of things. We had our own FDA, you'll recall, during COVID, posting, you're not a horse, you're not a cow, stop it, don't take ivermectin. It couldn't be more disingenuous.
Is there been any accountability for that? I mean, that's criminal, right?
For that specific thing, yes, a class action suit was brought against the FDA, and they were forced to take down that post. They did it very quietly. It was quite surreptitious. It didn't get a lot of press, as you might imagine. But the reality is, this is not new information. It's been out there. There are more than 12 different mechanisms of action by which ivermectin alone is successful in prohibiting the growth and replication and spread of cancer. 12 mechanisms. I mentioned the one that it shares in common with parasites, which should not confuse people to thinking that I am saying that cancer is a parasite. It's not. It's simply that the mechanism of action that those drugs have and how they kill the parasite, keep a parasite from replicating, is similar to one of the actions they have on cancer cells.
What about, you may not know this, but what about preventative medicine using ivermectin for cancers, or how would you look at that idea?
I would look at it, I think it's a great question, Todd, and I would look at it as very, very likely, because it is so well tolerated, and because it has ivermectin in particular has a long half-life, which means it may be that 10 years from now, the protocol is that everybody takes ivermectin 3 days a week. To prevent cancer from ever taking hold. I think we are just on the cusp of really understanding how powerful this could be. Again, we need some large, well-controlled studies to be done, but it would be tremendously exciting if we could offer patients something that didn't crush their immune systems and leave them potentially, as I said, with life-altering complications from the treatment itself.
What about, doesn't Africa, a lot of places take this like once a week or something for certain types of
They,
parasites?
they do. And interestingly, they have some lower rates of cancers, I
Mm.
believe, as a direct result of that. Again, that hasn't been proven. But yes, in sub Saharan Africa, India, other places where parasites and worms, intestinal worms, for
Mhm.
example, river blindness, where those sorts of diseases are endemic, those populations do, at the behest of their governments and their public health departments, take on a regular basis, weekly or otherwise, these antiparasitics. And I do believe it's part of the reason that they see lower rates of cancers. Obviously, there are other things at play,
Mhm.
including our overwhelming rates of obesity in this
Mhm.
country, overprocessed foods, toxic exposures, those sorts of things. But you cannot discount the fact that these other populations take in these antiparasitic drugs on a regular basis.
Last question, a new nomination for the CDC today. Do you have any opinions on that? I looked at her record. I don't see it as very positive, but what do you think?
Uh, unfortunately, I don't see it as very positive either. Her name is Erica Schwartz. I have never
Mhm.
met her. She certainly is well credentialed in
Mhm.
terms of her training and her background. She served in the military and was the deputy surgeon general under the previous Trump administration. My concern with her is she has a very well documented history of being heavy handed when it comes to mandates in the military and otherwise, particularly mandates of vaccines,
Mhm.
and harsh retribution for military troops who chose or pushed back on getting those vaccines, whether it was COVID, smallpox, measles, or others. And I think the last thing we need after the COVID debacle is someone in a position of power who is likely to side with industry,
Yes.
meaning big pharma, rather than with the Constitution and the rights of Americans to personal medical autonomy.
And we're still fighting in the military to get some of these guys out that were kicked out, and
Yes.
it's not good. I mean,
Yes.
they're not liking this at all. They're trying
Yeah.
everything to stop it.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to get out, Dr. Victory?
No, and as I said, I have not met Dr. Schwartz, so this is not a personal issue. Her credentials appear fine, but I
Mhm.
think we need someone who, at the helm, who is going to lobby for the rights of Americans, and who will help to get us right, back on the track of having confidence in healthcare, confidence in medicine,
Yeah,
confidence in public health, because that is at an all-time low right now, Todd.
so true. Thank you, Dr. Victory. We'll have you back down the road as usual. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Take care.